Hi, welcome back. We are on episode 28 and book 2, but we're going to do a little bit of a recap of book 1, and then we'll start on book 2.
Absolutely, yes. So we're about to, again, describe to you and tell you all the stories about this big book, almost 700 pages.
Oh my goodness.
So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, I wanted to just do a quick summary about what we saw. So our first 27 episodes were basically the life of Jesus, the unknown life of Jesus, because it has never been told and there was nobody around him to recount it or to take notes.
Right. Yeah. There wasn't anybody there except for him, and I don't think he was journaling.
I don't think he was journaling, and even if he was, he would not publish it.
Yeah, and it probably wouldn't have made it to the book anyway.
Right.
So,
so I just wanted to go back a little bit on this incredible trip that Yeshua took. And
well, it's a little bit more than just a trip. I mean, it was a lifetime almost, right? I mean, he was 18 years.
18 years of his life, and thousands and thousands of miles. Walking or on the back of a camel or a mule.
But mostly walking. I mean, he did a lot of that walking.
Yeah, but I think it's important that this trip was taken to learn about the different religions that were available at that time. And, mostly two types of religion, I mean, the Hinduism and the Buddhism, plus some leftover of Zoroastrianism around the Persia country. And so, again, we understood why Yeshua had to do that, because of his previous incarnations, but also because he needed to refresh his memory about all these concepts and learn about all this knowledge again, right? Yeah. We also saw at the end the fantastic initiation that took place in the Great Pyramid, and I think that was episode 27, if I remember well, and where the solar logos energy came into him and overshadowed his personality. Right. So technically, from that point, he became Christ. Okay, for just a few years. We will see how long it lasts. But that energy will leave him at the most unfavorable time. Poor thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we will see also how the famous baptism in the Jordan River is consolidating and finalizing the presence of Christ in him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
But the most important part, as I already mentioned, is really the big initiation in the Great Pyramid that took 3 days. And after the initiation, our audience may recall that he was out of the sarcophagus, without touching the lid.
Right.
So somehow his physical body managed to go through the crystalline structure of the granite lid, and come outside of it unscathed. Anyway, I want also to talk about the presence of the Elohim, what you call Elohim, but we know it is an extraterrestrial presence that is monitoring and protecting him, just to make sure that the official plan or the cosmic plan is taking place. So I think, not everybody gets this kind of protection, but not everybody does the job, the work that Yeshua is doing too.
Yeah, what he has to do.
Yeah,
so amazing. I mean, when you think about what he did after he came back, it was documented, but everything he did in those 18 years was, I mean, because he was a young man. Yes. I mean, he was 13.
He left at the age of 13.
I mean, imagine that. And his parents just like, okay, see you when you get back.
They knew what to expect.
It's just...
Now, since you brought the subject, let's talk about the parents,
Oh, okay.
So, of course, he has two parents, Myriam and Yussaf, the father, right? A little bit more is known about Myriam, because she's the Holy Virgin Mary in the Christian and traditional Catholic religion. But very little is known about the Yussaf, the father. And I think it's important that we mention a few points. I've been recently reading a book about the Akashic memories of Myriam, the mother of Yeshua, and it's quite interesting because we can see now the life through our perspective, through our eyes. Okay. So I'm not promising we will cover that book, but it will be interesting to bring pieces and clues
that'd be good.
out of this book
Kind
from
of get
time
a little
to
bit
time.
of background on them.
Yeah, so Myriam is, she's a very special individual. I mean, I think it shouldn't be obvious for the audience that to become Christ and to be able to absorb this incredible energy, you have to have a body and a DNA made of a certain substance.
Caliber.
Right? Caliber, yeah. Exactly. So the parents who are giving you the physical body have to be themselves of very high caliber. Okay, and Myriam was when she was young, she was what is called a colombe or a dove. I mean, she was a priestess, and she was in charge of taking care of the flame in the Essenian temple in Jerusalem.
Oh,
yeah. So until she reached the age of 12 years old, when she became puberty hit her, and then she was no longer able to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she had to stop doing this job, And she married Yussaf because Yussaf was actually her teacher. He was the best teacher she could have. He was a lot older than her, but she had a few instructors during her training as a dove or the colombe in that temple. But Yussaf was really the one that made the most important changes in her mind. And the way she learned a lot from him. She married Yussaf at the age of 15. Her parents are Anna, basically the grandmother of Yeshua, and Joachim, the grandfather of Yeshua from the mother side. Those two people are also very important. They are not common people. There are a few books which have been written about them, and I encourage also the audience to look into them.
Anna, the grandmother of Jesus. Great book.
Yeah, great book.
Yeah. I mean, they lived to be like 800 years old, right?
Yeah.
Some of them. Back then,
they had access to certain technology. Yeah, for sure. Certain ritual, let's say. I would briefly touch on some of the previous incarnations of Myriam, the mother of Yeshua. In previous incarnations, she was an incarnation of the goddess Isis in the Egyptian times.
That makes sense.
Yes. And so that's why she always considered herself the mother of everybody. It's deep inside her. With all the disciples around Yeshua, we're going to see that. She's always the mother. She had 4 children of her own, but she had been adopting many, many more. She has been adopting 4 kids from the previous marriage of Yussaf, because he was a lot older than her. And Yussaf's first wife died. And so she had basically to adopt the 4 existing children.
Wow,
he had.
okay.
Right.
So Yeshua had a lot of stepbrothers and sisters.
Yes, he had a lot of stepbrothers and sisters. But after that, she never stopped adopting a lot of people. So I think it's important to remember that she was an incarnation of the goddess Isis. Okay, she's not a simple woman, whatever the Bible or the scripture may say.
Yeah.
Same thing for Yussaf the father. He was the high priest of the Essenian temple in Jerusalem. He was the teacher of Myriam during many, many years. He was also highly educated, extremely knowledgeable, and very respected in the Essenian community. Okay, the scriptures and the Bible, are presenting him as a carpenter, I guess, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's not what he was doing. I mean, it's true that during his leisure time, he enjoyed working with wood. Okay, so he would fix a carriage, he would fix a bench. And that's probably where the legend that he's a carpenter comes from.
Yeah.
But his main job was really to run the Essenian temple in Jerusalem and to train and teach other students. Also, one of his previous incarnation was as King David. I will not say more about that, but people have heard about King David in Palestine and Judea, and this was him in a previous incarnation.
Okay.
So again, not a common people.
No.
All right. So after that, we at the end of chapter 27, we saw that Yeshua was arriving in the house of his uncle Yussaf. Yeah, they all have the name of Yussaf. It's very common over there. So we will call him Uncle Yussaf.
Okay.
So there is no misunderstanding.
Right.
And just arrived in the house of his uncle, and the house is very lavish, and very rich. Uncle Yussaf is a very wealthy man. Mm-hmm. He has a lot of ships and boats. He's doing a lot of
Import, export,
yeah. A lot of trading and everything, And he's even part of the Sanhedrin. We will talk about that later.
Okay.
But because of his position and because of his wealth, he's part of the Jewish Sanhedrin, which is the government and the official antenna or the official organ of the religion.
Yeah. Okay.
Government and religion, all under the same umbrella, which is called the Sanhedrin.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's what that is. Okay.
Yeah. So Yussaf, is now starting to be old. He has been actually preparing the coming of Yeshua for a very long time. Mm-hmm. We won't get into the details, but this is, he had a very long life. But Yeshua still finds him, very energetic and very green. Even though his beard is white and his hair are grayish, he's still very full of energy and happy.
Yeah.
So Yeshua is very happy to see him again, after 18 years. But the strange things about Yeshua is that he's not feeling any emotion per se. It is more like pure joy. That he's attributing that intense feeling to his recent metamorphosis, in the Great Pyramid. So we know that the personality, the essence of Yeshua as a human being, as we knew him before, is kind of did not vanish, but it's now on the back burner, right?
Well, I think he's more. Okay.
The essence and the energy of the Christ is now filling his mind and his soul more than his personality.
So he's feeling joy with no attachment.
Exactly.
So it's unconditional love.
Unconditional love,
right.
Yes.
Okay.
So all the emotions are not what they used to be.
Right.
That's the way he describes it, So he's feeling very detached. Joyful but detached.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not attached to any outcomes.
No. And so Yeshua is going to ask his uncle Yussaf, if he's truly recognizing him. Because he knows that a lot of changes have appeared, have happened on his physical
physically
appearance.
and...
Yeah, when he left, he was 13 years old.
Yeah, he's probably
when
got
he came
a beard
back,
now.
he's now 31.
Yeah.
And after the big initiation in the pyramid, I think his physical appearance has also changed as well.
There's probably something in his eyes.
Yes. And so Yussaf acknowledged that he recognized him, but there is also something else, he says. And Yeshua asked him, some kind of energy? And Yussaf said, oh yes, that's exactly what I was thinking, yes. And Yeshua tells him, Uncle Yussaf, it is for that energy that I left, and it is because of it that I came back. Yeah. And at that point, Uncle Yussaf, slides to the floor and prostrate and take the feet of Yeshua in his hands. He cannot repress himself, And Yeshua is going to let him do it, And he placed his right hand on top of his uncle's head. So, and he gives him a blessing. And at that point, Yeshua realized that Uncle Yussaf is actually his first disciple.
Oh, okay.
It's nobody else. It's Uncle Yussaf that became on that day his first disciple.
Well, he could see him, right? Not everybody could see him, so.
Yeah. And so after a long time, giving that benediction, Yeshua asked his uncle to stand up, And there is also another young woman in the room. She has a large bowl of water and she comes to wash Yeshua's feet, because traditionally in those times when you enter the house of someone, they would wash your feet, and then after that you can wander around the house. That's how it was done. And Uncle Yussaf introduced her as his niece, and she's basically a cousin of Yeshua, right?
Right.
And he said, her name is Marta, which means the head of the household in Aramaic.
Oh,
so
okay.
I think it may be interesting for our audience to know that the name Marta in Aramaic means head of the household.
I don't think I know any Marthas. Do you know any Marthas? I've
No.
known before,
Yeah.
but not today. Yeah.
Yeah. And Yeshua cannot help himself, but he's saying, she's a sister of Eleazar, right? And Uncle Yussaf is stunned. He said, how do you know that?
Yeah.
And Yeshua responds, oh, it's written all around her.
Oh.
Because
He could
he's
see.
reading her aura, right? So he knows exactly everything about her just by being in our presence.
Wow. Wow.
And Yeshua is going to reveal more clues about Marta. He says, oh, she lives in Bethany, which is a little town not far from Jerusalem, about a day of walking. And she shepherded sheep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And at that point, Uncle Yussaf is totally stunned. And then Yeshua asked him the next question, the delicate question. And Myriam, how is she doing?
Myriam, Marta, those are all names.
Yes.
Yeah, hard names. Yeah.
And Yussaf, is trying to beat around the bushes, and he says, there are a lot of Myriams,
Which one in particular were you asking about?
Yeah. And so at that point, Marta is going to leave the two men, and Yussaf apologized for her, So Yeshua, realizing that he's putting his uncle into a delicate position, tried to change the subject. And he asked Uncle Yussaf about the mosaic. So I think it's important to know that when Yeshua was a 13-year-old kid, he used to come to his uncle in Jerusalem. I think he came at least during the Bar Mitzvah. And he was absolutely mesmerized by a beautiful mosaic that Uncle Yussaf had on one of his walls. And that mosaic is showing 3 doves, which are delicately landed on a palm leaves.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And Uncle Yussaf is very happy that they switched to another topic, and he leads Yeshua to the room where the mosaic is located. And for Yeshua, it's coming back to his youth, right? When he was 13, when he came to Jerusalem for that occasion. And even though he remembered the masterpiece, he has no specific emotions again. He enjoys seeing it,
Right.
but there is nothing that that stirs his stomach or his anything.
Yeah.
He's very happy, but nothing to overwhelm him. He realized that he has changed and he's no longer the same inside himself. Yeah. So he's aware that he's still inhabiting perfectly his body, and he's controlling perfectly his body, but there is something different in him, and he has a different perspective on everything. a more lucid and encompassing vision of everything. See?
Yes.
Like what happened when he saw the aura of Marta, right?
Right.
Immediately he realized she was a sister of Eleazar, which we'll discover in the future as John, yeah, right? I don't want to go too fast,
Right.
but Eleazar is the same person as John. And she also realized that she was living in Bethany, she was taking care of her sheep, So it's So Uncle Yussaf is a little bit puzzled and is asking Yeshua how he should name him. How should I call you?
He wants to know how to call him. Okay.
And Yeshua says, you should call me Yeshua, of course.
Yeah.
Is that so difficult? Right? Uncle Yussaf is, I'm not sure. I mean, I can still do that, but Yeshua can feel the hesitation in his uncle, And
It feels like it needs to be more like,
right.
like rabbi or something.
Exactly, yeah. And at that point, Yeshua grabs Uncle Yussaf, and hugs him very tightly. He wants to make sure that his uncle is still feeling him as
and feel comfortable with
feel
him.
comfortable and feel as a member of his family.
Yeah, because he's feeling like he's being put on a pedestal right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he said to his uncle, so it will be Yeshua, right? And the uncle say, yeah, if you insist, but there is something. So after that, Yussaf and Yeshua have a very pleasant dinner, and Yeshua is inviting Marta to share the dinner with them, which is also unusual, right?
Right, yeah, because usually the women were
The women are staying in the kitchen, right?
seen, not heard,
Yes.
and served the food. And
Yeah, it's a little bit like the, in the Muslim traditional families where the women will be in the kitchen, they will serve the men, especially when they are receiving from friends,
Right.
or host.
they kind of
guests.
stand back.
They absolutely. So the same thing happened also is that traditionally in Palestine at that time. And Uncle Yussaf is discussing with Yeshua, how long are you going to stay in Jerusalem, and where will you go afterwards? And Yeshua is telling his uncle, well, I'm going myself no more than 3 days. And after that, Awun, his God, his father, will tell him where to go.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to stay more than 3 days in Jerusalem. Yeah. And so the following day, Yeshua is going to walk by himself and visit Jerusalem, And he realized that the city has changed a lot from what I remember when he was 13-year-old. So when he was 13-year-old, you remember a beautiful city, something absolutely stupendous, because he was coming from a very small village, and then he spent 6 years in some kind of cloister, the Carmel School of Mystery. So coming to a big city like Jerusalem was eye-opening. I mean,
Right.
It was breathtaking.
I'm sure it really
Yeah. But so now...
left an impression with him.
Definitely,
I mean, he just came from the Himalayas, and now he's
Yeah.
in a bustling city, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But so he doesn't find the beauty, but he finds what he calls seduction. And I think it's important to see the difference between beauty and seduction.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And,
wonder what he's observing.
well, we're going to talk about that. Yeah. He also finds some hardness in it. The city to him doesn't look as smooth and polished that it used to be, But again, those are very difficult to describe, This is his perspective, seen again from the Christic energy.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he's going to sit and he's observing the courtyard and the square in front of the temple. That's where all the buzz and
Right.
activities taking place. And he only sees business and trades. There is nothing spiritual or even religious in that place. Because the temple is used actually as the city market. Yes, it is a
Okay.
city market.
Okay.
That's where all the merchants, and all the trading is taking place.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All the sacredness has been
Synchronous is put aside.
null and void.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And Yeshua realized that, okay, the amount of work to change the consciousness of the people in Jerusalem is going to be enormous.
Yeah. He's sitting back thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to change this?
So at night, he's going back to Uncle Yussaf's beautiful home, and they have dinner. And again, Uncle Yussaf tells Yeshua, Yeshua, I have a daughter now. I adopted her shortly after your departure, so some 18 or 17 years earlier. And the father was a very good friend of mine. And he and his spouse died during some protest that took place in the country a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
So that poor girl was an orphan, and he had to take care of her. And because basically he adopted her. So Yeshua says, oh, she's the one whose name is always in your thoughts.
Oh.
Right? Because again, our Yeshua can read the thoughts of anybody. Nothing can be
hidden from him.
And then he goes on and he says to Uncle Yussaf, she's Myriam. And right now she's in the village of Migdel at this moment, right? And Yeshua is also probably as surprised as the uncle because the words are coming out of his mouth.
He can't control it.
In a non-controlled way.
He's channeling the information.
And Uncle Yussaf is just stunned. He's floored, And he said, did someone tell you about her? And Yeshua says, not at all, Yussaf, not at all. So Yeshua is watching in his mind the path of that young woman whose name is Myriam. So I guess in our world, and more in the more modern world in the scripture, she's known as Mary Magdalene, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And the name of Mary is because her name is Myriam, and Magdalene is from the fact that she's from the small village of Migdel.
Oh, okay.
So that's where the name
That's
comes
where
from.
the name came from. Okay.
So, but we're going to call her Myriam because we want to respect the name according to the Akashic memories.
Mm-hmm.
And so Yeshua is exploring the life of that woman through the aura of his uncle.
Oh.
Yeah, because she has been living with the uncle so many years.
So he can pick up on all of that.
He can pick up on all of it, yeah. And he
amazing.
realized that she had married a man who drank a lot, who was very violent. She had a son with him, a son named Marcus. We will see that also. And she finally had left that brutal husband with her son when he was still a toddler.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She took the son with her.
She took the son with her. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Surprised let her take him.
Yeah. And Yeshua can easily imagine, the reputation that has been plaguing this Myriam, and now also his uncle Yussaf. Because he's
got this woman there with a child. And
I think it makes, it comes as no surprise that, that Mary Magdalene has been desecrated in the scripture and in the Bible.
Right.
Yeah. And we will get more into that.
I'm
and we'll
sure.
Explain
Could
why.
you imagine the rumors that started and then it just, how she ended up being a prostitute, right?
Exactly.
Because here she is with the son and no husband. Yeah.
So Yeshua is just saying, while visualizing the past of that woman, he's saying, time is driving our lives. The hour to transition from the dark to light is coming.
Okay.
And for the next 2 days, Yeshua is going to keep observing the people in Jerusalem, And he noticed something interesting. He noticed that their prison is made of pride and egotism. And probably a bit of greed too. Mm-hmm. But, mostly pride and egotism. You see the games of submissions. He sees the compromises, the little rebellions, the greed, of course. Mm-hmm. And again, you just have to sit in front of the temple and just observe the aura of the people, to get every feeling and every...
Oh my gosh, poor Yeshua. Oof.
And in short, he realized that what can be seen in Jerusalem is exactly what he could see in all other countries that he has been crossing. There is nothing different.
Yeah.
Nothing less, but nothing more. They are exactly like anybody else. And it is what he called the world of slumber, which is neither good or bad.
Right.
Just people, sleeping.
Sleepwalking.
Yeah. So at that point, Yeshua is thinking, okay, he could have turned his back to all this, but the Christic energy in him is preventing him from doing that. And it's actually pushing him forward. And that energy was given to him as a fuel, really, to try to change things,
Right.
and to never be defeated by adversity. Yeah. And he realized that he's actually grateful to see that because of their pettiness and blindness, among all these people, he realized that this is the reason why he had worked so hard to grow. Because he grew for them.
Right.
He's going to help them.
Right.
Yeah. So on the third day, Yeshua is leaving Uncle Yussaf, and he's walking to Bethany, to the little village of Bethany. He's pulling a mule, and the mule is carrying Marta. Marta is going back to her place, basically.
Okay. So she doesn't stay there with
No,
them.
she doesn't stay all the time with Uncle Yussaf.
Okay.
And perhaps Uncle Yussaf had some business to attend to,
Right.
So, and again, she's a woman, so
She has to travel with somebody.
She's taking advantage of the fact that Yeshua is walking to that place to go along with him. Yeah. And before leaving, Uncle Yussaf had given Yeshua, the mule for Marta, but also new sandals and a few coins. We know that Yeshua can tap into the attics of his father, right? Or the cellar,
Into the void.
cellar of his father. As he
Right.
likes to. But he never does it unless it is absolutely
Right. He
essential.
probably doesn't
and
want too many
critical.
people seeing that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So after taking Marta to her home in Bethany, Marta asked him, what are you going to do now, Are you going back to your village? And Yeshua says, no. First, I will go and salute my cousin, Yohanan. He's in the desert preaching, and he has a lot of disciples. So for our audience, who maybe didn't watch all the previous episodes, Yohanan is a cousin of Yeshua. He's the son of Elizabeth, I think. I forgot her name in Aramaic, but anyway. So, and he was raised in near Jericho, and he spends his time in the deserts, preaching, and he's also following the Essenian, but he's more on the hardcore, more inclined toward the Qumran way of Essenian.
Oh, okay.
The
They were a
Essenian,
little bit more strict.
very much strict, yeah. And Yohanan is known in the Bible and in the scripture as John the Baptist. And we will see him later, yeah. And Yeshua tells Marta, I like all these crazies. I like to be with them.
So do I.
And Marta tells him, they are saying that he's near Sokuk, where the river goes into the Sea of Salt. So Sokuk is the current place where the monastery of Qumran is located. At that time, it was called Sokuk. Yeah. And it is right where the Jordan River is falling into the
Dead Sea.
The Dead Sea. Yeah. So Yeshua knows, leaving Martha, that they would meet again in the future. Yes. Our Marta pass was with this group. But at that point, Yeshua feels that his first priority is to go to Sokuk and Qumran and meet with Yohanan. So he starts walking again, solitary, and he arrives on the next day on a hill, which is the Mount Olive. And again, I will post a map so people you can see what kind of itinerary he's doing. And on top of that Mount Olive, you can see the glittering Dead Sea at the bottom, you know.
Okay.
Yeshua finally arrives close to the monastery of Sukuk, which is also Qumran now, where a mix of sad memories comes back to him. Yeah. And again, I would send the audience back to our previous episodes where we describe the visit of Yeshua when he was an adolescent, 13-year-old, with Yosheram, his old friend, right before they left for the long trip to India.
Oh, I guess that's what he said. He's remembering his friend.
He's remembering his friend, but he's also remembering how difficult and how unpleasant it was to be received in that monastery of Qumran.
Okay.
Because they don't follow the same rules.
Right. They're a little different.
They are very ascetic, extremely tough.
Very extreme.
Totally extreme, yes.
You go from one extreme, and the other people are there selling things in the the temples, and it's just
it's just crazy.
Well, I guess he's probably happy to be home for a little bit, right?
Yes, he's probably happy, but he realized that if he has been placed in that country, it's because it's very challenging, and there is a lot to be done.
Right.
Because I think his personal inclination would be to just go back to that lake he loved so much in Kashmir, you know,
and just live out his life,
Lake Dal, and live a normal human life.
Because he probably, if he could see the vision of Marta being in their lives later on, he probably sees what the end result's going to be anyway.
Yes, he doesn't have the complete understanding of the plan, but he understands some of his challenges. And he knows, after watching the population, the Jewish population,
he's got a lot of work ahead of him.
There's a lot to be done.
And there still is a lot of work.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Not much has changed.
Nothing's changed.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing has changed. Well, some things have, but...
Well, I mean, they rejected him, so...
Yeah.
It makes sense that nothing would change, All right, so our next episodes, will be, I guess, more interesting perhaps for the audience, because we will be paralleling our story with the scriptures. We will be debunking a lot of stories from the scriptures, which have been modified and doctored and... anyway, I don't want to get into more details, but...
Well, I think what happens
we will also describe, who wrote the scriptures for the most part, most of it.
Right.
And hopefully that will make a lot of sense.
I think it's going to get fun. It's going to get a lot of fun here.
It's going to get fun and probably politically incorrect too.
Yeah, that's all right. You could tune out if you don't like it.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you so much for coming and visiting our site, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.